What if I told you that the next big move in the crypto space, specifically with XRP, is just around the corner? And what if everything you've been told so far about this asset, everything you've seen on charts and heard in the media, might just be a smokescreen? Stick with me for the next few minutes because this might just change the way you look at XRP forever. We've all seen the red and green candles flicker across our screens every single day, right? You might have even thought that those candles represent price discovery, the market finally deciding on what XRP is worth. But what if I told you that price discovery is actually a myth? What if these volatile spikes we see every day, up and down, aren't the result of a true market decision, but are actually the result of something far deeper, something orchestrated behind the scenes? I know this might sound like conspiracy talk, but bear with me. I'm not here to tell you what you want to hear. I'm here to show you something that might just blow your mind. XRP has been caught in the crossfire of regulatory battles, legal disputes, and media sensationalism, and through all of that, the asset has managed to survive. But, and this is the key, it's been playing by a different set of rules than most people understand. Now, let's take a moment to talk about the psychology behind crypto markets. Why is it that one moment XRP can shoot up 20% in a few hours and the next moment it drops just as quickly? What drives this kind of volatility? It's easy to think it's based on news, headlines, or public sentiment, but that's only part of the picture. In reality, the price movements you see are the results of much larger institutional forces at play. The bigger players in the market have been quietly accumulating XRP for a while, and once they've built their position, that's when we start to see the massive shifts in price. The thing is, you probably won't even notice it when it happens. Let's break this down a little further. XRP, unlike many other cryptocurrencies, has always been targeted as a bridge asset in the world of cross-border payments. But what makes it so unique is that it was designed to work within the traditional financial system, not against it. It's been engineered to be the solution that big banks and financial institutions need to move money across borders efficiently. And because of this, XRP has always had a very different kind of investor base compared to Bitcoin or Ethereum. The early investors in XRP weren't your typical retail traders. They were institutional players who saw the long-term potential in its technology. But this long-term view is exactly what makes XRP such an intriguing asset to watch. Now, with the legal battle with the SEC heating up, XRP has been in a constant state of uncertainty. Many have speculated that the outcome of this case could determine whether XRP will be adopted on a global scale or whether it will remain confined to a niche market. But here's the twist. What if the SEC case is just a distraction? What if the real decision makers, those with the power to take XRP mainstream, have already made their move? What if the real shift in XRP's future is happening right now under the radar with little fanfare? Imagine for a moment that the court case is merely the tip of the iceberg. What if the true value of XRP is not something that can be determined by a single court ruling, but instead is tied to the unseen forces of institutional adoption, partnerships with financial giants, and the integration of its technology into the global payments infrastructure? I know it sounds far-fetched, but hear me out. The SEC might have been the first hurdle, but it's not the final destination. You see, the game here is not about price, it's about control. XRP's technology is already being used by financial institutions around the world, quietly and without much media attention. Ripple, the company behind XRP, has established partnerships with companies like Santander and American Express. But these partnerships are just the beginning. If you've been paying attention, you'll know that XRP's real strength lies in its ability to facilitate fast, low-cost cross-border transactions. And that is exactly the kind of service that the global financial system needs as the world moves towards digital currencies and more efficient financial infrastructure. Now, before we continue, let me ask you a question. How many times have you heard that XRP is dead or XRP is doomed? It seems like every few months another piece of news comes out claiming that XRP is finished. And yet, here we are, talking about XRP like it's got a bright future ahead of it. So what's really going on? Why does XRP keep defying the odds? Why does it continue to survive when many others have fallen by the wayside? The truth is, XRP's survival isn't based on speculation. It's based on real-world real-world use cases and partnerships that are building behind the scenes. As the crypto space continues to evolve, we're going to see more and more traditional financial players turn to XRP for its speed, efficiency, and low cost. The narrative around XRP may not be as flashy as Bitcoin or Ethereum, but that doesn't mean it's not just as important. In fact, it could very well be the foundation on which the next generation of financial transactions is built. But here's where things get really interesting. You've probably heard about the idea of institutional adoption in the crypto space. We all know that for crypto to truly go mainstream, it needs to be accepted by large institutions, banks, payment processors, and government entities. But what if I told you that XRP is already on its way to becoming the backbone of global payments? What if the next wave of adoption is already underway, and the price fluctuations we see are just the noise before the real move? Think about it. XRP was created to be a bridge between different currencies, to facilitate cross-border payments with speed and low cost. In a world where digital currencies are becoming more mainstream, that use case is more important than ever. And it's not just retail traders that are seeing this. Big players, the ones who control the financial systems, are waking up to the reality that XRP is one of the few assets with real utility in the payments space. So, while everyone's eyes are glued to the SEC case, the real action is happening quietly behind the scenes. XRP has already established its position as the go-to solution for cross-border payments. The question is, will you recognize the shift before it's too late? Or will you let the noise distract you from the opportunity that's already unfolding? I know this all sounds like a lot to digest, but trust me, this is just the beginning. The next few months could be crucial for XRP's future, and if you're paying attention, you might just see something big unfold that the rest of the market is missing. The question is, are you ready for the shock that's coming? Now, let's take a step back and really assess what's at stake here, because when we talk about XRP, we aren't just talking about a cryptocurrency, we're talking about a technology that's been positioned to revolutionize the way the world does business. The old financial system is slow, outdated, and expensive, and it's been holding the world back for decades. But XRP is different. It's faster, cheaper, and more efficient than the traditional systems we've relied on. Think about this for a second. When was the last time you sent money across borders and the transaction was completed instantly? Probably never, right? In today's world, cross-border transactions can take days, sometimes weeks, depending on the countries involved. The fees can be astronomical, with intermediaries taking a cut at every step along the way. But with XRP, all of that could change in the blink of an eye. Ripple, the company behind XRP, has been working tirelessly to build partnerships with major financial institutions, payment processors, and even governments. They've already secured partnerships with some of the world's biggest financial players, including Santander, American Express, and PNC. And that's just the beginning. XRP's utility is already being recognized across the globe, and its real-world use cases are becoming more and more evident every day. Now, let's talk about the SEC case. This has been one of the most discussed topics in the crypto world for the past couple of years. The legal battle between Ripple and the US Securities and Exchange Commission has caused a lot of uncertainty around XRP. But here's the thing, the SEC case is not the only thing that matters. While the outcome of the case will certainly have an impact on XRP, it's not the deciding factor in whether XRP succeeds or fails. The real question is whether XRP's technology is valuable enough to stand on its own, regardless of what happens with the SEC case. And the answer to that is a resounding yes. XRP has proven itself as a fast, efficient, and cost-effective solution for cross-border payments. And as more and more financial institutions begin to recognize the value of XRP, its utility will only continue to grow. The SEC case has been a distraction, but it's also been a blessing in disguise. While Ripple has been focused on fighting the legal battle, they've also been quietly building out their network.